With 7 points from the past 3 games, Newcastle United is enjoying its best run of the season and taking no chances. The team plays Parramatta in Sydney on Sunday afternoon. Lee Sterry has even moved training sessions forward to acclimatise players to the earlier game time.
Certainly the heat factor and acclimatising your training sessions is important in the week building up to the game, so we'll just see how it goes.
The coach today named a 17-man squad for the match, crucial to United's hopes of scaling the NSL ladder. Asala Massey is back on the first grade list, having nailed a hat-trick last week when he was demoted to Youth League.
The Kiwis asked me a few questions about how long he was contracted last week when they saw him in youth, so that tells you that everybody's got a respect for his ability.
It all leaves Sterry still facing a choice between youth and experience.
You like selection headaches. It's good to have selection headaches, you know. We haven't had enough of that this year because we've been missing a fair few key players throughout the season.
Two days after celebrating his 22nd birthday, Sean Rudder was back in the gym, his mind firmly on the task at hand for this weekend's match against the Northern Eagles. He'll pull on the number 6 jersey at 5'8" in the starting lineup on Sunday, after Matt Gidley broke his leg in the trial match against Parramatta 2 weeks ago. They're big shoes to fill, but Gidley's break could become Rudder's lucky one.
The last couple of years I haven't played that much football coming off the bench, and I'm really looking forward to playing 80 minutes a game and proving myself in the starting lineup.
He'll have plenty of opportunity to prove himself, with the new interchange rule forcing the big back rowers to stay on the field for longer.
I feel really fit, probably as fit as I've ever been. We've had a really long off season and it's really been good with the new interchange system in this year. A lot of us are going to have to play a lot more time.
Some of the Knights have admitted to a few nerves, but no one is underestimating the power of a home crowd at Marathon Stadium.
It's good playing your first game at home, and I think it's a big advantage.
When you're down on your line, defending your line and that, and the Newcastle chant goes up, it's unbelievable. It gives you a great lift.
Catherine Turner, NBN News.
Morning sacrifice is set in the staff room of a girls' high school. With a strong 9-member female cast, even the smallest of daily challenges is explored. But the play also raises serious issues.
Issues like women's role in the workforce, marriage or career, all those questions which were relevant then, I think are still relevant today, particularly in the teaching profession.
The title holds significant relevance for one of the young teachers, who comes under the judgment of the ambitious Deputy Headmistress, played by Newcastle-born Helen McDonald.
Interestingly, Helen has played the role once before, so this is a chance for her to revisit the role, and everyone in the cast has really benefited from Helen's vast experience.
Morning Sacrifice opens at the Davida Street Theatre on Wednesday.
Based on the intelligence from the past that we collect, we look to the future as to how we're going to strategically deal with crime in Waratah Local Area Command.
This was the point most golfers wake up in a sweat, but for Nathan Green, it was a case of a dream becoming a reality.
I'm over the moon. Just it's been just non-stop last 24 hours sort of thing. It's been great.
The long-time Waratah Golf Club member arrived home this afternoon, along with older brother and caddy Darren, who wasn't claiming any credit for the magic moment.
Actually, I was trying to talk him into hitting 6-iron. He said, no, 5's good. So, yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, I usually ignore his advice anyway.
But the pairing must have worked at some stage. Green went on to finish second to Colin Montgomery and earn almost treble the Scots paycheck. As for the hole-in-one ball, it remained safely in the 25-year-old's care, bearing the initials of his golfer girlfriend, Michelle Nelson. If Green had won the Masters, an engagement ring was on the cards.
It's always been a joke. I said if I won one, we'd get married, and yeah, she's been patient.
And while the $500,000 doesn't exactly mean a limousine for the Newcastle golfer, he is planning to upgrade his ageing Camry. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
The campaign to get rid of the toilet block at Newcastle's Centennial Park was mounted by residents almost 5 years ago. Fed up with rising crime, antisocial behaviour and rampant drug use, they called for its demolition. But instead, Council last year opted to renovate the facility instead, including additional housing for council staff to monitor the area during the day. And now residents claim they're back to square one.
Not only was it not an option, but it was never even mentioned or discussed in all those 4.5 to 5 years.
Mr Kane says residents would prefer to see the block demolished, but that the construction of 2 separate toilet cubicles will help solve the problem. As for council, the Lord Mayor was prepared to revisit the issue today, even though he's not certain it reflects the wishes of all residents.
One really has to question, do we need as many public toilets as we have, and what sort of hours do they need to be opened?
A public access meeting will take place at tomorrow night's council meeting. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
The Hunter Business Chamber argues regional areas such as Newcastle are being repeatedly robbed of jobs because of centralised decision making.
I think we are sick in the regional area of being the second cousins to Sydney. Everything seems to stop north of the Hawkesbury Bridge.
An example given is state government plans to upgrade rail lines for a high-speed service. The Sydney to Warnervale rail link will be finished by 2007. Work on the Newcastle section won't start for another 3 years after that.
The local politicians have got to be held accountable for this. They've got to sort of say, well, we've got more to offer. I mean, we are a recognised Labor voting population through the Hunter, so I mean, we need to be rewarded accordingly for the votes that these people keep getting.
In the lead-up to the federal election, it's a call to arms by the Chamber, which is urging everyone, including its 1,100-strong small business membership, to petition all politicians on local issues. But it's argued last week's Steelworks announcement revealed the government is willing to spend millions on rail and port infrastructure.
What I'd say to the Business Chamber and to Paul is let's work together. Let's not fly kites and work against each other. Let's work together.
Meanwhile, a push to have the Newcastle Mall open to traffic is again being pursued.
More people, more movement, less antisocial behaviour.
Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
If Newcastle is to make the NSL playoffs, a win against the Northern Spirit will be crucial, but United's current unbeaten run has fuelled player confidence.
Going 4 games without the loss, it's definitely pumped the boys up. They're ready to go now.
Perhaps Chris Zoricic is as well. The Kiwi defender has been named in a 17-man squad for Friday's game after weeks on the injury list. Whether he takes to the field or not will be decided later tonight. John Bonavolia's fitness is also under question, but the striker should play.
His lower back is a real painful area at the moment, so we've tried to ease him up, and he's had a lot of physiotherapy in the last couple of days.
There's also no word on whether super sub Daniel McBreen will start or remain an impact player.
Certainly there's a few of our front runners who have got to look at themselves, and if they can't produce something in the next couple of weeks, then some of these younger blokes will go in there and do the best job.
One striker Lee Sterry will keep an eye on is the Spirit's British import Ben Burgess, who's equal second on the NSL score sheet with 11 goals.
Buyers came to ogle over the Golden Bale today, a collection of top-quality wool donated from the New England region, which is the world leader for the finer grades of wool. And in the running for the bidding,
the big players are the Italians, who produce the superfine cloth that goes into the famous men's suits you see.
In fact, this year enough was donated to make a second Golden Bale, both of which were given to a charity organisation called Challenge Armidale Limited. Today they both went under the hammer. And there's no better place in Australia to sell the top quality wool.
Well, Newcastle's recognised as the premium fine wool sales centre in Australia, has been for many years, and generally always has a top offering of fine and superfine wools.
In the end, it was a Korean company which took out the first bale at an incredibly high 6,000 cents per kilogram. The Italian company of Giovanni Schneider scooped the second at 3,888 cents per kilo. To the Challenge charity, that means the bales proved truly golden, earning them more than $10,000. Adam Harper, NBN News.
Donald Tyndall says the last 13 months have dealt him some cruel blows. Last January, his 70-year-old father Alexander died in his Adamstown home after a suspected arson attack, and then he was charged with attempted murder.
The media judged me from day one as a guilty man of killing his father in a horrendous way of burning his father to death. I'm in a prison cell. How can I defend myself?
But after spending the last year in prison, Donald Tyndall was given a chance to defend himself last week when the matter went to trial at Gosford Supreme Court. And yesterday afternoon it took a jury less than 20 minutes to hand down a not guilty verdict. Now Donald wants to clear his name and honour the memory of the man he says was his good mate.
Me and Dad were father and son, drinking partners and best mates.
Helen Kapelos, NBN News. For the last decade, Latec House has been a landmark building in Newcastle's West End for all the wrong reasons. But developers today unveiled a new proposal for the building which will come to be known as the Pinnacle.
I think the site is unique. It's unique for a number of reasons that people from Newcastle know, but we'll turn it into the best building in town.
The latest proposal for the site has been 5 years in the making, with the building to comprise of 68 2, 3 and 4 bedroom apartments and undercover parking. A lap pool, health spa, beautician and concierge are some of the other extras included in the $20 million overhaul. It's the third DA approved by council for the site, but architect Edward Duke says this project is by far the best.
And this latest one achieves most of our goals. It's the highest building in Newcastle. The views are spectacular from those upper levels.
Of course, the project comes with high hopes for the West End.
We're seeing today the launch of what is going to be a very fine opportunity for the revitalisation of the West End.
At least 130 people are said to have registered interest in the units. The 2-year construction period gets underway in July. The concept of a rugby league challenge in the state's regional areas has been in the pipeline for years. Tomorrow night it'll become a reality.
This is a statewide competition, 56 senior teams, the biggest senior knockout in the world, and we're ecstatic about it.
Teams from virtually every corner of New South Wales are keen to see how well their neighbours and distant relatives play the game. And already there are predictions the Hunter and Central Coast teams could be there come grand final day.
West Newcastle, a very proud club, and I'm still talking about the north. On the Central Coast, naturally enough, I've got the Woy, Wyong, Yamina, all muscling up.
There's a $20,000 prize waiting for the winning team. The CRL wants to offer more, but as yet has failed to secure a major sponsor.
At this stage, a lot of large companies seem to think rugby league's a very wealthy organisation and they probably compare us to the NRL, but the country rugby league is mainly controlled by volunteer workers.
Matches will be played in 4 20-minute quarters. The competition will run for 7 weeks. Catherine Turner, NBN News.
Last night, arachnid experts descended on this Katara home to find out why more than 200 deadly mouse spiders have overrun the Osborne family's backyard.
What we found there were a lot of hatchlings and immatures, which means that it looks like they're breeding all year round, and these spiders can breed all year round.
The rare spider is smaller than a funnel web but contains similar venom, and it seems the only way to get rid of them is by digging up the backyard, a prospect the Osbornes are considering, even if it means hiring a bobcat. 65 spiders were found by experts from the Australian Reptile Park last night, Mr Osborne digging up another 30 when they left.
It's bizarre. We have got no idea. We cannot say why there's just so many spiders there.
But that's little consolation to the Katara family, who say they'll do anything to see the venomous creatures go. Sydney's University of Technology is conducting research on the spiders collected by the Reptile Park to further their studies. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
East Timor may be our closest neighbour, but for these young students it may as well be a world away. They've left behind a country trying to get back on its feet. Jose, Nelson, Alder, Sarah and Guida hoping a little knowledge gained will go a long way back home, thanks to the combined efforts of AusAid and Christians for Peace.
I think that the sisters realised that the time for clothes and food was gone. You know, the emergency situation is gone, and we wanted to do something to empower people and to empower the country, really.
Today they were welcomed to the Newcastle campus by Vice-Chancellor Roger Holmes.
I'm sure there are tens of students, perhaps hundreds of students that we could help in this way. We can't accept them all, but we would like to increase the number that we're currently supporting.
Newcastle University has waived close to $250,000 in fees for the students, and the Sisters of St Joseph's House of Hospitality will provide accommodation for the girls.
Feels free.
You feel safer?
Yeah, safer.
Today it was a chance to tour the campus facilities. Jose will study food technology, Nelson applied management, Guida a Bachelor of Social Science with an interest in tourism, Sarah teaching and Alder chemical engineering.
I'm just very excited about this opportunity because nobody else can get this, and I'm really happy about it.
Matt Carden, NBN News.
Police say the gunman fired a single shotgun blast at the Raymond Terrace police station at 9:20 last night. Shotgun pellets peppered through a front door and window, ricocheting around a highway patrol officer who was alone manning a desk.
Be a bit of shock, horror in regard to hearing a loud explosion and then having pellets spray around you.
It was a close shave for the senior constable of 22 years who was grazed in the shooting.
Didn't break the skin or the shirt.
As for motivation, one possibility being investigated by police is that it was retaliation for operation in the area. Since there have been numerous arrests for street crime, antisocial behaviour and property and motor vehicle theft. Another theory is that it's a copycat attack after several similar shootings on Sydney police stations in the past 2 years.
If I could give an example, I think on 60 Minutes last night they're actually talking about similar types of events.
2 witnesses have told police they saw a man driving a silver or blue early model 80s Falcon speed away from the scene. Bulletproof glass will now be installed in the station, which the Police Association says is one of the most neglected in the state.
Absolutely atrocious. I cover the northern quarter of the state from Sydney up to the border and in as far as Armidale, and this is one of the worst in my lot, and we have been campaigning for some time for vast improvements here.
The association is also pushing for video surveillance of the station. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
Prescription trends are the latest marketing tool for pharmaceutical companies, offering information on what drugs doctors are using to treat their patients. Now, a software company, Health Communications Network, has devised a plan to sell statistical information obtained directly from GPs to government agencies and drug companies.
It's also selling
the information to other groups, or would appear to be selling the information to other groups without telling the GPs who it's selling it to. And that's the bit that we have a real objection to.
The computer program called Medical Director was originally designed to help doctors gauge and audit their skills and compare their treatment to that of their peers. 178 doctors have so far signed on to release this statistical information that HCN is now proposing to sell on. Dr Arne Sprogus from the Hunter Urban Division of GPs has advised the region's 380 doctors not to participate in the program, and more details are forthcoming.
I'm not so much interested in who. What I'm interested in is that if that's going to happen, that the GPs whose information they're using have been properly informed and can say no.
HCN says when contracts with interested parties have been exchanged, it will give the details to the participating doctors. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
There's no doubting that league's a tough game. Just ask Justin Ryder or Robbie O'Davis, two of the night's smaller men who've come under heavy attention in recent weeks. Far from condoning high shots, Hagan says it's not about to get any easier.
There's no secret that it's still part of the game that you want to hurt people at different times to try and take the edge off someone. It's almost part of the game.
It certainly will be a part of Newcastle's game plan against the Bulldogs this weekend.
If we get right into them, I think any side's sort of might be a bit vulnerable, but yeah, for sure they might sort of get back in their shell a little bit, yeah.
Given his known muscle on field, McDougall's return couldn't come at a better time, and it will be a straight swap onto the wing.
We'd like to keep it that way if everyone stays healthy and Robbie O keeps playing in the manner in which he's playing, which has been outstanding for the first 2 weeks.
The side to play the Bulldogs at the Sydney Showground for the first time has McDougall as the only change to the side that beat the Roosters. For Hagan, though, it's also a return to his former club and where his brother is the CEO.
They've now got some speed to contend with. They've got some people that can promote the football. They're fitter than most teams, so it's something to look forward to from my point of view.
Police volunteers spent this morning canvassing Derby Street in Cooks Hill. They spoke with restaurateurs and store owners who agreed to stick up pamphlets detailing the murder of 73-year-old Polish immigrant Anton Kaul. The vagrant was violently bashed in Civic Park on the 15th of January.
He had some fractured ribs and fairly nasty head injuries.
Despite those injuries, Anton dragged himself across the road to the Nick Mitovits Gallery in Derby Street. A Good Samaritan found Mr Kaul lying face down on the footpath outside the gallery just after midnight. Known only as Nathan, he phoned an ambulance and stayed by Anton's side, comforting him until help arrived. But sadly, he died in hospital a few weeks later. The search is now on for the man who helped him, Nathan, who may live in the Cooks Hill Merriweather area. Police say he could hold clues vital to solving the murder. Anton Kaul had a history of mental illness. He's sometimes asked to be called Pedro and had no known family.
Nothing much was really known about him until he actually died. He appeared to be somewhat of a loner, drifted around the streets of Newcastle.
We're pleading to people that did see this person or know about the incident, please come forward, because it's a brutal murder. It's not on. It's not our way of life in this area.
Anyone with information is asked to contact Newcastle detectives on 49 290 999. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
Rookie prop Chris Beattie has had a tough 2 weeks introduction into the NRL. In round one he copped an horrendous break and nose, which he had to leave the field to have his bugle stitched up during the game. And I can tell you what, it's not a great look for a young guy who's starting his first grade career. However, it gets a little worse. Round 2, the biting incident. Beattie copped a 2-week suspension for biting Parramatta's 5'8" Daniel Wagon. It's hard to come up with any other verdict except for guilty from watching this footage, but Beattie claims his innocence, saying he had his mouth open to breathe because his nose was blocked from being plugged from his broken nose, which he sustained the week before, and Daniel Wagon's forearm just fell into his mouth. But some good news for the Sharks. Martin Lang makes a timely return from injury, so does Paul Miller, which will help cover for the loss of Beattie, and also David Peachy. Great to see the NRL having a minute's silence before every game this week to honour the passing of Australia's greatest ever sportsperson, Sir Donald Bradman. He brought integrity into playing sport and also gave a nation a genuine hero to believe in. On to round 3, Friday night's game at Parramatta Stadium between the Eels and the Broncos will be interesting. Everyone is predicting a big year from the young Eels, but the Broncos have won both their games and showing some real consistency. I want to go with the Broncos on this one. Sharks v the Raiders. Sharks have won their last 6 matches against the Raiders at Toyota Park and should do the job again. I fancy the Dragons to beat Storm at Wynn Stadium. Cowboys' recent good form will be put to test against the Roosters, who have won 5 from 5 up there at Dairy Farmers Stadium. Roosters to win. Panthers, Tigers and the Knights, with the inclusion of Adam McDougall, should win their games. Good luck with your tips. I'll see you next week.
While they start there, foodborne illnesses aren't generally discussed at the dinner table. Only 1 in 20 cases is actually reported, but experts from across the nation are meeting in Newcastle this week to expose the bug.
Is the tip of the iceberg. We just did a little bit at the very top, and there's a huge amount underneath where you get sick yourself, you don't need to report it, you have a day off work, it all goes completely unreported.
So the public is being called on to fill in the gaps as part of a government-funded program called AusFoodNet.
We need members of the public to call in when they're ill, when they're involved in outbreaks, if they go to a restaurant or some other function. A lot of people come down sick in the week afterwards. They need to call their local public health unit.
And most people would be surprised at just where outbreaks occur.
Restaurants are in general much safer than some of the more private functions that people may hold, where you have amateur food handlers preparing food, leaving food out for hours, overwhelming the refrigerator in the house so that it's being opened every 10 minutes.
But simple precautions can make a big difference.
Personally, they can do things like washing their hands before they prepare food. They can keep hot food hot, cold food cold, and make certain that raw meats and other raw foods don't come in contact with food that's ready to eat.
Brooke Webster, NBN News.